Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Thursday, January 26, 2016 edition of the broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us here for another edition of the show. We've got quite a few news items and whatnot here that we're going to be getting into for you here tonight on the broadcast. Lots of stuff to discuss and talk about with you, so looking forward to jumping right into all this and hashing it out with you here like we always do, folks. Thank you very much yet again for being here with us. I was going to be here yesterday. I'd planned to be here again yesterday, but, like I said on the last show, too, I'm still, I don't want, I have this, I guess everybody does. Excuse me, but I have this tendency to, I have felt good all month, man. It's New Year's Day. I've been, afflicted with this mouth pain. So the natural impetus, as soon as you're feeling any kind of better again, is to immediately sprint 5,000 miles an hour, instead of easing yourself back into it like you should. Your natural impetus is just, at least mine is, to just want to go full bore. And so yesterday I, had a little of the pain come back. Nothing major. I'm still doing much better, but it's going to be a slow healing process, and it's not going to happen overnight. But to have not had any pain relief and had this off and on for like the past year, and to have this like instantaneous pain relief as soon as I started doing this remineralization program stuff, man, it's amazing. So. But the interesting thing is that it always seems to work out like this. I did all my usual, because believe it or not, it takes me, all day usually to prep for a show, to get it all ready and together. So yesterday I got everything, prepped and ready to go to do a show, and then started having pain, really couldn't talk that much again. So I just decided to do the show today instead. And as it turns out, had I done the show yesterday, there wouldn't have been one today, because there was nothing new today to cover and nothing else I really wanted to get into. So it really worked out just fine. I like when it happens like that, So we're going to get into all that stuff for you here tonight. Some various stuff that ties in with, really a lot of the stuff that we discuss the most here. I really appreciate everybody's comments and stuff out there. I appreciate all the people again that are, as I said in the last show, have the ability to see through all this BS stuff going on, not get brought into one of the sides, which is exactly where they want you. And it's been great, to get your comments and stuff. I really appreciate that for everybody out there. Where did I got one earlier. I think it was on Facebook, maybe. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. He says, one of our listeners says, I like how you don't use yellow journalism in your work. I've come to see that this is the difference between you and others. Sensationalism and crude exaggeration seems to be the norm in most people's work in this field, especially in their titles. And because of this, they get way more hits. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I, of course, replied to him, and I don't know. I know exactly what you mean. And that's something I've always, I've never done here. I don't believe in fear-based journalism. I call it fear sauce. That's what Jones has. He puts spreads out on his enchilada. He used to always make jokes about it. If you don't know about the Alex Jones enchilada thing, he's obsessed with enchiladas for years. He's always talking about eating enchiladas and all this stuff. And I'd heard him, talk about it. So, one time on his show, he was saying, "I'm the leader, folks. I'm the big enchilada. I'm the big cheese. I'm on the front lines. Everybody else is behind me." It's always, kind of called the big enchilada and stuff. And back at that event that I've talked about where he was at in Dallas, where I had that thing happen that I talk about in the Spellcasters. Before that, there was this Mexican restaurant next to that theater, and I went to go eat there before the show. And as I'm walking, take these what do you call it, the hostess, I guess, is taking us to our seats or whatever. And as we were like walking by, like on our way to the seats, you go through kind of the dining room parts, and you go past through other tables where people are already eating. So as I'm passing, going through there, I glance over to my right, and right as I'm walking by, I see Jim Mars sitting at a table, and right directly next to him, on his right, is Alex Jones. And it was just like the fucking clouds parted. It was like, those that you talk about, those things where you're in the right situation, the right place at the very right time, just to see, that thing, like seeing a fucking dodo bird or a fucking horny toad or a double rainbow or something. That was it for me, man. I was in that. I just happened to walk by at that restaurant at the exact perfect time to see that fucking enchilada eating motherfucker shoveling a goddamn spoonful into his fucking gut. Right as I walked by, I fucking lost my shit. And back then it was before I was on air. This was like a year before I was on air, before I knew anything about the CMP or any of that stuff. But I'd already heard him talking about the enchiladas and stuff for years. So many, many years ago, in kind of the early days of my show, I started this running joke, and we used to make these. It was even before memes were really a thing. I used to just take these pictures and put words on them. It was really serious. It was before there was even, memes were a thing. And I was making these, like, I'd find these, like, these ridiculous, amazingly looking pictures of enchiladas, and I would, like, put quotes from Alex Jones and stuff on them. This is the front lines, and enchilada special today. Ted's got his Jew Gold enchilada special for you today, served with an extra side of fear sauce. And my point is, that's exactly what this person's talking about here: the sensationalism, yellow journalism, crude exaggeration. And it's something I've been, and I really appreciate the comments, but it's something I have been gotten praise for before, and it is something that I'm very conscious about. Something I've just refused to use the fear and exaggeration, the rest of this stuff, and the information. The truth is the number one motivator, the number one thing that we're after here. And if you water that down in any kind of way, you might as well go home. So I've also been criticized for not doing that, if you can believe that. I've been criticized for not sensationalizing it enough. A good example of this was in my my David Bowie series. A lot of it was about David Bowie, but also tied in with other things into part 2 with the monolith and the rest of that. The Secret Messages film series. You can get that in HD at our download shop, edited together as one film. It's definitely nice. Some of the stuff in there definitely ties in with the Spellcasters. So if you got the Spellcasters, you might want to get yourself a download of that too, because some of the stuff does tie in there. But I've always tried to make a conscious effort in all my work and all my films, even from the very first film I ever made, 9/11 New World Rising in 2007. I've always, tried to present the information that I discuss in my films in a way to where the viewer can come to their own conclusions. And that goes over so many people's heads, and their ego gets the best of them. And then they leave comments or they send me emails and they criticize me because they don't get it. Because they're like, well, this is about this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, okay. All right. You came to that conclusion. But they're all over me saying, well, you should know it's about this, and this. And they don't get that I don't try to come to conclusions. People are so conditioned and used to people coming to a predetermined decision or having a belief about something and then working backwards from that. And that's not me. That's not what I do. If you watch something of mine and you take away something from it that's not in the film, good for you. But it doesn't mean I didn't know that or understand that, or maybe have come to that conclusion on my own. But I don't like to come to conclusions for you, because then what point would, I mean, why would you want to watch something where someone's already come to a conclusion and worked, trying to prove their conclusion to you? That's not what I do in my work. That's not what my films are about. And sometimes that method goes over people's heads. Sometimes people don't get it, but I don't really try to concern myself with that too much, because for every person that doesn't get it, there are 10 other people that do get it, So that's the thing that I try to go forward with in my work, is there, because there's so many things, people were saying, well, why didn't you say David Bowie faked his death? And well, I didn't feel like I had enough data to go there at the time. And not only that, none of us really know for sure. So it's all speculation. So if you watch that Secret Messages film series, there was so much stuff in there that I'm laying out that is facts, not opinion or anything else. And because the majority of almost everybody else out there has these conclusions they've already drawn, and then they're trying to just over and over convince you of that, I don't. That just comes from somewhere where they just don't have all the facts to prove it, but they can present it in a way to make you believe that they do. That's so, especially with my film, The Spellcasters, man. Of course there are, so many more conclusions. I mean, I would say the one thing that I kind of took a leap of faith with, as far as information that's in The Spellcasters Volume 1, that was sort of just something that was my opinion based on my research and the facts, was the thing about them wanting to unleash the Scientology technology on the entire world. And then, of course, I was proven 100% correct after finding out recently that David Miscavige and top-level Scientologists themselves have said that is the plan. So, that's the only real example I can think of something where I kind of took a leap on, because I didn't have any absolute proof to prove that they wanted to unleash the technology on the world, but it just appeared that way from, when you research and look at everything that they're doing and buying all this, property they've bought, the billions of dollars worth of property they own all over the world, and just, looking at what they do, and the attitude of anybody who isn't a Scientologist is a suppressive person. The whole attitude of, you're either with us or against us is taken even a step further there with Scientology. So yes, I've got so many comments on the David Bowie stuff, because I didn't cut. People were like, well, he's talking about this, and you should know he's talking about, and this is about Nibiru and whatever else. You came to that conclusion. If that's what you believe, then great. But again, you need to understand that I'm not attempting to come to these conclusions for you, because again, coming to conclusions for it, that negates thought. It negates thinking for yourself. And that's always been one of the biggest things. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, I appreciate the comments here, appreciating the fact that I don't sensationalize this stuff. I'm telling you, and a lot of times it is way worse than I'm saying. I'm not trying to intentionally underplay these things, but using fear and information should not go hand in hand, because fear negates rational thought. And if you're thinking irrationally and thinking only on your emotions, which of course is what Alex Jones and a lot of these hucksters, that's what they prey on. That's when they can get you to and manipulate you to not only think anything they want you to think, but also act and do things that they want you to do. And again, that's where my whole study into mind control, the ties and connections between Scientology, Council for National Policy, Alex Jones, Trump, all of this stuff. That's what this has been about. Is showing how these, going back to the mind war stuff, all of this stuff, psychological manipulation. Uh, this is all being unleashed upon the people, and the people that are unleashing it, just like I told you many years ago, going back to my early days of the secret right work, that the people who are claiming to be against the enemy are actually right hand in hand with the enemy. And they're actually going to be the ones bringing in. I told people that for years. Alex, I said that. I remember saying that back in 2008, 2009, and people not wanting to hear it and not believing me one bit. Now you can go look up Alex Jones CMP. There are people that I don't know who've now taken my information, taken this stuff, and, trying to wake people up with it. But I remember telling people back then, 2008, 2009, that this was about, that Alex Jones was going to be, he screamed out FEMA camps, and he was going to be the one that was going to help bring that stuff in. And, that, of course, looking at where we're at now, that's exactly what's coming in. All this stuff, literally, folks. I've been warning people and telling people this stuff was coming since I first found out about this. And again, as I was talking about in the last show, that's why so many people get so scared when you bring up the group and you talk about it. I didn't get that, before I knew about the deeper connections, the CIA connections, the rest of that stuff. And that's why that's why a lot of these people have gotten so scared when you bring it up, and why Jones would get so nervous. Listen to some of those recordings, man. His voice is cracking. I put some of those stuff of him talking about that in my film, The Secret Right Volume 2. And even then, I didn't get it. I didn't get why they were scared. It took more and more years of living with this stuff and more years of research and connecting more dots. And finally seeing, how the money flows and the members and everything else. I talked about Edgar and Elza Prince the other night. Edgar and Elza Prince were both CIA assets. They were on the board of governors at the beginning formation of the Council for National Policy with Tim LaHaye. Another interesting figure who was also on that was the guy who was the father of the hydrogen bomb, Dr. Edward Teller. Go look up Dr. Edward Teller. Do some research on that guy. By all accounts, this is somebody who was politically considered a left-winger. And he was on the board of governors of the Council for National Policy. He was also a Council on Foreign Relations member. And, of course, we also know that Eric Prince admitted 5, 6, 7 years ago, somewhere in there, that that he in fact did work for the CIA. And as I mentioned the other night, Nick sent a link to me about, I guess I mentioned Eric Prince having some sort of job in the Trump cabinet, and I guess of course he's now been advising or secretly advising Donald Trump, and so right there, we already know they vetted, the Council for National Policy vetted Trump prior to the election, just like they vet all candidates, just like they vetted Bush in the Council for National Policy meeting in San Antonio in 2000, where his campaign was not going well. And he went in with the yes men at the Council for National Policy at that meeting in San Antonio, and he said yes to everything they asked him. Will you only elect pro-life judges to the Supreme Court? Yes. He yesed all the way down the board, and they got the election thrown for him with the Diebold voting machines. Ken Blackwell from the Council for National Policy and the rest of them helped do all that. That's documented in Secret Right Volume 1. And now we have the Council for National Policy who not only vetted Trump, but also, again, CIA connections, Eric Prince, his family, CIA connected to the hilt there at the very beginning stages of the Council for National Policy. And, of course, Eric Prince connected with them, Blackwater, Z, the rest of it. And, I for years, I sent, I forget which one it was. It was volume 1 or volume 2. I think it was volume 2. Maybe volume 1. I don't know. You would think that's why all of this stuff is so phony. You would think that the left wingers would have been all over a film like The Secret Right, but they wanted nothing to do with it. I sent it to left wing media. I sent it to, tons and tons of left wing media outlets just to prove the point of what I already knew was going to happen, is that they weren't going to touch it with a 50-foot pole. And of course they didn't. And they won't, even though you would think they would be all over a movie like that, right? Because you think that they would want any ammunition against their perceived mortal enemy, correct? No, they don't want anything to do with it. Of course not. Because that information shows that they're also connected to those people. They don't want people pulling back the fucking strings on that, finding out the left's no different from the right, vice versa, and they're all interconnected. And even these groups that claim to be ultra high, right-wing conservative Christian organizations are infested to the hilt with Opus Dei members, Knights of Malta, Jesuits, Rothschild Jews, and just completely infested all the way through with people who are, and there's multiple people on the board of governors for the Council for National Policy that were also, CFR members, Council for Relations members. So of course, no, they won't touch any of these films or touch this information, even though you would think it would be a natural thing. They'd want anything that the public doesn't know about that would give them ammo. But of course, again, none of these, neither side, left, right, doesn't matter. None of them are interested in the truth. And of course, this is why the exaggeration and stuff happens on both sides of the field. And as I've talked about many times, again, that's part of trying to create the cognitive dissonance, to stir people's minds up and get them so confused and messed up and mixed up, they don't know what side to go on. So they often end up times picking whatever they perceive to be the lesser of two evils, because they just get fed up with the craziness of one or the other. I mean, I saw this happen all through with during the Obama administration. It's happened again now with the Trump stuff, because people get caught up in other people getting caught up in stuff. The sheep get caught up in the hysteria of the left right stuff, and they don't know any better. And then other people that don't know any better see this behavior, and it ends up pushing them one way or the other. That's all a part of this continued manipulation of the self, and the continued attempts to divide everybody right down the middle and get everybody right where they want us at. So we're not united together going after the controllers and the people that have been running this shit show, regardless of whoever the current controlled puppet is that's in there, who's the front man, the face man for the whole thing, selling agendas and whatnot to the people that were already pre-decided as agendas many years ago. So yes, I do appreciate the comments, and that's something I've always and will continue to do here. Believe me, there's tons of money in it. I mean, I could make more money than I could ever dream of if I would have went the other direction. If I would have went the sensationalist, yellow journalism, let's blow everything out of Alex Jones end of things. Yeah, absolutely. Tons of money to be made that way. No money to be made in absolutely staying objective and presenting nothing but the facts. So be it. All I want to be able to do is just to be able to, make what we need to survive. And sadly, we're hardly even really getting that very much lately. So, but, our fundraising week is starting right now. We've got, 5 days of, we got until Tuesday at noon to raise 100% of our operating cost goal. So go to my website, theglobalreality.com, hit up our January 2017 monthly operating cost budget banner there. Make a contribution. You can use PayPal if you want to use that contribution button. If you'd like to use a credit card or debit card, just use the donate button there. Scroll down the page on the right-hand side of my website, and you'll find the little yellow donate button. That's for if you want to use credit card or debit card to make a contribution. We'll have a prize, nice prize giveaway to the highest contributor. We'll announce that up on our Facebook pages for the Global Reality tomorrow. And, with all of my health problems and stuff this month, we did not have as many shows as I wanted to have because I was not able to do them. And has not enabled us to be able to get the support we need this month. So we just need everybody to come together right now, everybody who hasn't contributed before, to make that contribution now for the first time and get to it so we can keep this going. We're running out of time. I don't want us to get in that red alert situation where we're down to the last day and having to come up with everything. So it's not too early. Tomorrow's Friday, so go ahead and get your contributions in now. And the highest contribution is going to get a grand prize, and then everybody who contributes $100 will be in a drawing for the a separate prize. So, all right, let's get into the news, and be sure and check out the download shop too at my website. It's a link right in the middle of the page. It says "Get all Josh Reeves' films here." Blah blah blah. Click that. All my documentary films are in there, including The Spellcasters, my newest one, Volume 1. It's in there. We've got tons of great audiobooks. Atlantis and the Giants, Our Story of Atlantis, which is another great one. These are rare books that some of which you just can't even find PDFs of. These readings are not on YouTube, and they Our History of Atlantis is internal secret society documents and on Atlantis, and a lot of stuff in both of those books ties in with my Rockwall and Lost Secrets work. So, and there's Manly P. Hall audiobooks in there, some different Zachariah Sitchin readings, tons of great stuff in audiobooks and films in the download shop. So go and check that out as well. Scientology anti-drug program found active in London schools. A report has found that tens of thousands of children have been exposed to Narconon, which says it utilizes techniques developed by L. Ron Hubbard. Narconon, an anti-drugs program funded and run by the Church of Scientology, has been found to be active in UK schools. So, just as I told you about the California schools who had evolution teachings replaced by members of the Council for National Policy, Betsy DeVos, Beverly LaHaye, and Phyllis Schlafly. Now this has started to pop up across the pond for me here in the UK. So we have lots of UK listeners. So again, you there in the UK, you see how this affects everybody everywhere. According to an investigation by the Evening Standard, 35,000 children were exposed to the organization through presentations that were part of the program over the past year, including more than 16,000 in London. Narconon claims to be a highly effective drug-free withdrawal, detoxification, and rehabilitation program, which utilizes techniques developed by L. Ron Hubbard. It began in the 1960s when a prison inmate cured his own drug addictions using principles found in one of Hubbard's books. Now, Narconon, of course, has been on my radar before. I'm going to have some stuff on Narconon in the Spellcasters Volume 2 that's going to tie in not only, obviously, with the Scientology stuff, but also with the suspicious deaths of famous musicians and whatnot that we're going to be discussing in the film. Specifically with the Narconon thing, the death of Kurt Cobain, and inside the album jacket for the second whole album from Courtney Love, one of the in the thanks in that record, one of the entities that she thanks in that record is Narconon, which might not mean much to anybody if, as you're going to see in the film, you don't take into account her absolute total connections to the Central Intelligence Agency, to the CIA, through her father. What's his name? Something Harrison, because Love's not her real last name. Harrison. Anyway, her dad is supposedly ex-CIA, but you know what they say. Once CIA, always CIA. And he was actually the guy who was providing LSD and whatnot to the Grateful Dead from the CIA. Because the Grateful Dead were absolutely on the CIA payroll and the rest of it. You've heard about the electric Kool-Aid acid test and all that stuff where they'd set up this fake concert in San Francisco and told people that the Grateful Dead were playing. And they gave everybody that came in through the door an apple that was injected with LSD. And this entire crowd of packed out nightclub, I don't know if it was at the Fillmore or one of those places, but this entire theater club, whatever it was, with this packed out audience of people tripping their balls off, had a simultaneous hallucination of seeing a Grateful Dead show. But the Grateful Dead never appeared on stage. They played a recording from a Grateful Dead live bootleg, and these shows have been found because people even back then were bootlegging everything Grateful Dead. And you can actually hear the tapes A-B'd, this a bootleg recording of what went on at this acid test show. And then you can listen to the bootleg of the show that happened from like a year before, 2 years before, and you can hear it's, the audio is identical. But they pumped in the show had a bunch of lights and fog and smoke, and the entire venue believed they witnessed, every single person that was there believed they witnessed a Grateful Dead show. They didn't witness anything but a bunch of lights and smoke and a played back recording. And that was one of the CIA tests that they did. And of course, as I said, Courtney Love's father was involved with all that. Courtney Love actually appears on one of the Grateful Dead album covers. I think she's very young at the time, but so that was one of the red flag things for me, and I'm going to be showing is what stuff about her, and as well as another individual well known in the alternative music scene that was involved and has connection to Scientology, and I think was definitely involved in the murder of Kurt Cobain. So it's I mean, this film's going to be just unbelievable. The Church of Scientology actually sent this letter to Conan O'Brien to discredit Leah Remini. And of course, I've talked about this whole Leah Remini thing. I'm not kidding you. It was some years ago. I don't remember what it was, a website or something. It was just something I came across doing research, And it was like known CIA assets in Hollywood. And one of them, this was before, she was still in Scientology at this point. And one of the ones it said on there was Leah Remini. I just remember laughing at that, going, the fucking Kika Queens chick is a fucking CIA asset? Okay. Right. Yeah. I'll buy that for $1. Sure. Yeah, she's a fucking CIA asset. And then, over the past couple of years, she leaves Scientology and very publicly, and then the book, and now the TV show, and, this whole controlled demonization of the leaders of Scientology to then usher in this new face, which is really just going to be, it's still going to be Scientology, just with somebody else running it. Because as I've said, the CIA is very vested in getting the power structure changed at Scientology, because they're an organization that has been off the reservation of the CIA for quite some time. And that's why there's been so many people who have been going through the OT levels, these so-called free zoners, as I've talked about, free zone Scientology. This is Farrakhan and others. This is why so many people have been going through these things, but not actually affiliating themselves or calling themselves Scientologists, because these, Farrakhan included, many of these people who have been rumored to be CIA assets are not allowed to be public members of the church, because the CIA considers the fundamental power structure of the Church of Scientology to be rogue at this point. They helped set it up. It was a extension of the MK Ultra program, with L. Ron Hubbard and his work in the OSS. I document all this in the film, The Spellcasters. But in the early 80s and after the death of L. Ron Hubbard, and you had Dave Miscavige, who basically, usurped himself into power. So the CIA very much has a vested interest in wrangling Scientology back into the plantation and back into their control. And it just has blown me away to see all the stuff that's transpired with the Leah Remini stuff. And, now I'm thinking, okay, now I get that whole connection to the, known CIA assets in Hollywood thing. Another one was that would surprise me, but I've also seen little telltale stuff of this now is Jennifer Garner. That was another one I saw on that list with known CIA assets in Hollywood years ago. And that was another I was thinking, Jennifer Garner, her old horse teeth? But now I've seen lots of stuff. She actually did, when she was on that show Alias, I think it's on YouTube. She actually did some, I don't know whether they were training videos or internal videos. She actually did some internal videos and stuff for the CIA. Supposedly her dad, who I recently I don't even watch TV, and recently saw, I was at a restaurant or something, I think, or a store, and saw a TV it was on, and saw a commercial with Jennifer Garner on it, and it had her dad on it. And her dad supposedly is CIA as well. This is why, her and Ben Affleck, it was supposedly Ben Affleck was banging the nanny or something. It was a big blow up about a year or so ago, and they were supposed to get divorced, and then it was all over the news. Divorce, this, and then it quietly kind of swept under the rug. And quietly, now they're not getting divorced, and kind of quietly the media dropped the story and moved on to other scandals. There's a good reason for that. It's kind of like when a husband is a CIA agent and has a security clearance, and just by virtue of being, the wife being married to him, she can sometimes, come in contact or have knowledge of certain things that she shouldn't have a security clearance of. Shouldn't have a security clearance for. So that's considered a security leak risk. So they'll send them to counselors. They'll basically dissuade the CIA asset from getting divorced. And I started seeing this whole thing play out with Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. All of a sudden, she had every reason to divorce him and take him to the absolute cleaners. He was caught and even was admitted. He was straight up banging the nanny, straight up caught. Then all of a sudden, they're working it out. And yet people see them together and they just, they seem awkward. And well, that's what that is. Obviously Affleck has, been privy to certain pieces of information since he's been married to her, and it would be a security risk for them not to be together. And when I saw that, them starting to patch it up, I was like, that stuff about her being a CIA asset, and then finding out that she actually did work for them and did videos and whatnot for them. It's funny, man. Sometimes this stuff that when you first hear it, a lot of that stuff, with the Council for National Policy stuff and a lot of that information, it is true though. Sometimes the first time you hear some of this stuff, man, it sounds outrageous. It sounds crazy. Like there's no way that could be true. And then you find out it is. I remember, I talk about this a lot, but I remember the first time I heard about spider goats. And I just was laughing my ass off, laughing the hell. Oh, come on. I'll believe a lot of stuff, man. I'm not going to believe in fucking spider goats. Give me a fucking break. And it absolutely was true. There was a company that had genetically bred these spiders, or it was I don't know whether it was the spiders themselves or the goats. The goats. Yeah, I think it was the goat. They genetically spliced the spider with a goat, and then the goat's milk would produce this material that they could make this heavy-duty body armor out of. It was absolutely true. But when I first heard it, it sounded fucking wacky. It still sounds wacky. Fucking spider goats. It's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to believe in fucking spider goats. Did some research. Turns out it's absolutely fucking true. That's, and that's the thing. People have to be willing, if you're really going to go down the rabbit hole, there are some things that you absolutely going to have to toss to the side if you ever really want to really understand the truth of things. And one of the big key ones is not being attached to any preconceived beliefs, belief structures, ideologies, or anything else, throwing all that truly out the window and not allowing it to affect your understanding of something. And that's very, very difficult for a lot of people, especially in terms of having to throw out everything they think they know about whatever particular religion they might be associated with, or follower of. Also, political affiliations, of course, but also, your belief in the things that you've been told, and things that you believe or have been told to believe are absolute positives and absolute unmovable, unchangeable things. But if there's one thing I can tell you from my many, many years of researching all this stuff, is that virtually everything we've ever been told and taught is on its foundation been a lie. So the whole nature of reality comes into question at that point. And if you're connected to sacred cows, if you're connected to figureheads, it's tough. And that's why very few people are actually willing to take the entire plunge that is necessary to become truly awakened and have a true understanding of this stuff. Because these attachments keep people connected to things that they can't let go of, and not being able to let go of those things doesn't allow you to see the truth you should be able to see. That's why so many people, and I've talked about this before, I've experienced this many times, people will are with you up to a certain point. I found that with some people they're with you up to a point. As long as what you talk about mostly fits in with their already preconceived notions and worldview, then they're with you. But as soon as you go into an area or a territory, kind of like I mentioned not too long ago about people getting butthurt because I was talking about, Star Wars, which is never, being used for agendas and whatever else now. And that's the thing, man. People are okay, or people getting butthurt because I talked about the Beatles and the fake Paul thing. And that's how it is, man. People are, they're with you until you say something that challenges that, and then it's like a defense mechanism. People just don't want to let go of it. America's next secret weapon that can paralyze a city, electromagnetic pulse artillery shells. Oh, fantastic. Another fantastic weapon that the United States will manufacture and then sell to our enemies. So we have an excuse to justify another war. Isn't that great? If the U.S. Army has its way, America's next secret weapon may be an electromagnetic pulse artillery shell that paralyzes an enemy city. These special shells won't carry high explosive. Instead, they'll emit EMP bursts or some other non-kinetic technology to disrupt the computers, radio communications, internet links, and other ties that bind modern societies, and do so without creating any physical damage. This is the sort of a 21st century version of the neutron bomb, that notorious Cold War weapon designed to kill Soviet soldiers through a burst of radiation while inflicting little damage to property. Except this weapon targets the radio frequency networks that keep a nation functioning. This concept is expressed in a single paragraph in a new Army research proposal. Extensive use of wireless radio frequency networking for critical infrastructure and communication systems provides an alternative attack vector for the neutralization of an adversary's underlying industrial, civil, and communications infrastructure without the destruction of the hardware associated with those systems. Advances in munitions-based microelectronics and power technologies make possible the implementation of non-kinetic cyber and electromagnetic warfare attacks that could be delivered via artillery-launched munitions. The precision delivery of the non-kinetic effects electronics payload close to the target allows low-power operation, which limits the geographical context of impacted systems and reduces the overall impact of the electromagnetic spectrum. Right in the last days of the Obama administration, a report came out talking about the lack of electromagnetic protection that the United States has against such attack, saying essentially we have none. So that's a brilliant idea. Let's create a weapon that we ourselves don't have anything to defend against with. That's a bit of putting the cart before the horse there, isn't it? But of course, that's exactly what they want to find and what they want to do. Archaeological find puts humans in North America 10,000 years earlier than thought. Well, welcome to the party. My goodness, I put out Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 in 2013, and, people were having fits over me talking about this city buried under Rockwall, Texas, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 to 340,000 years old, and people were having fucking fits. And ever since then, ever since I've pushed this and talked about this and shown the evidence of this through these films and national radio interviews and everything else, slowly now, very slowly, they're allowing findings to come out that sort of push this back. Now they're saying about 24,000 years ago, there were people here. So they're slowly trying to acclimate to this to people because, as I talked about in the last broadcast, they don't want to create one of these. They're just at all of this stuff. The biggest fear for them is that knowledge and information and the truth will cause an upheaval in their world systems. Now, understand, they want to cause upheaval in the systems of governments in individual countries. The old order out of chaos thing. That's the agenda on the small scale, but the large overall agenda, regardless of what countries are dominant powers at that particular moment in history and who isn't, it is all about keeping this worldwide societal program moving forward indefinitely and not allowing anything to disrupt that. To what end and what aim, we could speculate and talk about till the end of time, I think. But that, at all costs, is the plan. They don't care if some countries and some come to an end and other ones rise and some countries get destroyed and other ones rise. That's of no consequence to them. That's not what they care about. It's about keeping the entire world system they have in place, keeping itself going indefinitely. And when it comes to who we are, where we come from, our true history and our true destiny, any of this information, any of that is perceived to be a threat to that, is what they spend money neutralizing. And that's why these motherfuckers have spent millions of dollars, folks. I'm not afraid to tell you. They spent millions of dollars trying to downplay my work through, bullshit History Channel shows or other programs with stuff on the thing like they brought me on that UK television show, which is on Netflix now, Conspiracy, the Hollywood Files. Flew a film crew all the way from fucking England to Dallas just to put me in a video just so they could say that I made a claim that Philip Seymour Hoffman was murdered by Scientology, but yet I've provided no proof of that yet. But yet, notice how they never show a clip of me making the claim that he did it. Right, because I didn't say that. But that doesn't stop them from saying that I said it without even having to show proof of me saying it. I mean, folks, it's not bragging. It's not fucking bullshit. These motherfuckers have spent millions of dollars, and it only takes, $1,100 a month or whatever for us to keep our stuff going here, plus whatever it costs us to make the films, a few $1,000s. We're kicking their ass with peanuts That's why we need you to at least donate the peanuts we need every month to stay alive. I mean, if we could get more than that, my God, what we could do. Now, even if we just had like, a little kick in, like $5,000 or $10,000, just, something, just a little war chest to work with. It would be unbelievable what we could do. But these motherfuckers have to spend millions, folks, through America Unearthed, through these TV shows and all of this stuff, news reports, articles, to combat what little old me's been doing over here for the past 10 years. I mean, it's just incredible. The future of spying. Earth's atmosphere can be turned into a massive surveillance system using lasers, scientists discover. Oh, this is another one of those like the geoengineering stories. Like, scientists discover we can modify the weather by spraying aerosols. Meanwhile, they've been doing it for fucking decades. If a lot of you have been following the story of this X-37B, the unmanned black shuttlecraft thing that's been in orbit around the planet for the past couple of years, and everybody's been wondering, what it's doing on its top secret mission. Well, this is it. This is exactly, even the craft looks very similar to it in this artist rendering they show here. That's what this is. This is not coming. It's already being used. And that's exactly what it does. It flies around the Earth, and it uses lasers to turn the atmosphere into a giant antenna where it can listen to anything, anywhere, all over the globe, including in your house, without the use of even going through your technological devices like your cell phone or laptop cameras or anything else. British Aerospace Systems, surprise, surprise, surprise. They have L3, which is here in Texas, which is a division of that. Probably where they work on a lot of top secret stuff like this there, reconnaissance stuff. BAE Systems are designing a directed energy laser system that can allow military commanders to spy on enemy activities from space. BAE Systems believes within 50 years, one of their aircraft could use an atmospheric lens to observe people from very long distances using the Earth's atmosphere as a tool. Again, this is already here. Not 50 years, right here, right now. It's already been being used for a few years. All of this stuff is in HARP and chemtrails and stuff work in combination with that. I didn't really get to go into a lot of that in the last show or one of the shows recently when I talked about chemtrails, and I think it was a show before last. People were cracking up about the flying nutsack. But that's been one of the other things. That's why so much of the sort of conspiracy realm has put so much focus on chemtrails being either just used for weather modification and nothing else, and go back to sleep, don't worry about it. It's just there are people out there that, even people who appear to be trying to expose chemtrails, when you hear their spiel at the end of it, it's just weather modification, so maybe it's just nothing to worry about anyway. Or they're using HARP for mind control, and it's part of that, and then that's it. Now that's another element of this of the chemtrail, and with HARP, using the electromagnetic waves to activate these particles in the atmosphere, and then of course, as they're talking about here, using lasers to basically turn the clouds, an atmospheric lens. The way to do that is to have those particles dispersed throughout the atmosphere all across the globe that are already there. Then when you apply the laser to make it into this big focusing lens, all that particles and all that stuff is already there. So absolutely, they're already using and testing this stuff now, and that's why they'll tell you it's 50 years off. So then when you hear somebody like me tell you that the X-37B is absolutely already that program, and it's already being put into use, well, you just discredit it or discard it and think it's just a wild conspiracy theory claim. Meanwhile, there's stuff that I remember telling people, getting laughed at talking about the railgun 9-10 years ago. People saying that was a conspiracy theory, and railgun was a fantasy and made up. I remember talking about that and telling people, no, they've been using railguns for years. And then like 2 or 3 years after I was talking about it, boom, oh, here's a new story. The Army's or the Navy's now building a rail gun. And then they actually featured it in one of the Transformers films. Because Michael Bay gets Pentagon script approval on those films, meaning they get to finalize what's in the films in exchange for their military weaponry to be showcased in the film. They shoot a transformer off the top of the fucking Great Pyramid with a rail gun in that fucking thing. I was like, it doesn't get any more symbolic than that, does it, folks? I mean, just another example of them just throwing this shit in our face all the time. From Forbes.com. Forbes, yet again, another CMP connected. See, Forbes, of course, a Council for National Policy member. Why is it taking so long to figure out Planet 9? Again, here they are with the Planet 9 Nibiru stuff again. We have the mass and orbital perimeters of a large planet in the outer solar systems, in our outer solar system, and astronomers don't seem to care. Nothing short of caring deeply can cause astronomers to publish such a burst of papers on an as-yet theoretical planet, too distant to have already been captured by our numerous telescope faculties. A recent paper counts 22 new publications. Wow, more than I thought. I mean, I saw 4 or 5 different articles about it and thought it was a lot. 22 new publications from planetary scientists in 2016 assessing the specific claims of a paper that came out exactly a year ago on the 20th of January, 2016. Over 20 papers in a year is a pretty substantial achievement for any individual object. In fact, off the top of my head, the only other single object that reached those dizzy heights in 2016 is Boyajia's star, also known by its technical name KIC 8462852, which you may remember as the alien megastructure star. So what did those 22 papers turn up? Well, as you say, they've narrowed down the mass and orbital perimeters of the planet proposed by Batgen and Brown in 2016, which elaborated on an original suggestion by Trujillo and Shepard in 2014. The 2016 suggestion was covered quite widely. So every day you hear that there might be a mystery planet floating around the very edges of our solar system, but it was fundamentally only a suggestion, blah, blah, blah. The point of all of this is, there aren't 22 papers being published on it because they care so much about science and they care so much about the public knowing the truth about anything. Give me a fucking break. I mean, the differences between science and religion at this point are negligible. I mean, both rely on this never-ending faith in the dogma, and both act like they care so much about their followers and they could give a shit. So if they're dedicating this much attention to supposed Nibiru Planet 9 at this point in the media and in the scientific world, folks, you can bet your bottom dollar there's only one reason for that, and it is because they have a massive agenda. Now, whether that agenda is to cover up something that does actually exist and convince people it doesn't, or whether that agenda is to convince people that something that actually does exist is something altogether different than what it actually is, in order to be able to get people, as I talked about earlier, into the fear sauce and scaring what it is, and then getting people to be behind doing away with space treaties and the weaponization of space and all this stuff for that. Who knows? But there's definitely an agenda here, and I think we've seen enough evidence now up to this point to understand that there is agenda. And as I've said for quite some time, 2017 I think is going to be a big year for this. So we'll keep continuing to document and get this stuff on the record for you. Boy, this woman must have been a real fucking piece of work. You guys hear about this guy? I'm sure you did. Husband who robbed a bank to escape his wife faces 20 years in prison. Kansas man who stole $3,000 in an armed robbery then waited in the lobby for the cops, quote, because he'd rather be in jail than at home. Dude, 70 years old. 70. This wife of his, boy, she looks like a piece of work, too. She looks like one of those angry, crazy, Kim Jong-il looking Asian, women. I had a work for a boss like that one time. Short, like fucking high and tight military haircut. I can't tell whether she's Chinese or Korean, though. Dude, 70 years old. Dude went and robbed a bank. He's facing a fucking 20 spot. Dude, when bank robbery and going to prison for 20 years is an option at 70 years old, boy, what does that say about that wife? She must be a fucking piece of work. Prisons prefer. Getting pounded in the ass by Bubba and eating food with saltpeter in it is preferable to her. Jesus Christ, I feel for you, man. The dude didn't even hurt anybody or even try to go anywhere with the buddy. He just straight up went in and fucking like, oh, fuck this. I got no other options. Man. You know what's fucked up? I hate to have to admit this, but it's fucked up about it. He probably would have gotten, we don't know if they're going to give him 20 years. I mean, he's facing up to 20 years, but what I'm saying is, he might have been facing, sad but true, he might have been facing an actual shorter sentence had he just killed the bitch. I mean, don't fuck around with bank robbery, man. Not a bit. They don't fuck around with that shit. I mean, I hate to have to say it, but he may have been better off just capping her. At least then he could have, pled the case that he was, of spousal abuse or something. But she's just going to be able to go terrorize somebody else now. So I don't know if that was necessarily the right play, but I get it. I mean, if you felt you had no other choice to get away from this bitch but to go to prison for the rest of your life at 70 years old, man, fuck. Bad news. You could. Oh, China's radical $168 million weather control system revealed. Scheme to boost rain and snow for an area double the size of France gets go-ahead. Perfect example of what I mentioned earlier. Folks, there are articles going back decades. Mainstream news articles, Chinese news articles, everything. I even mentioned this in the Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1, which came out in 2013. There's a little spot in that movie where I talk about Chinese weather modification and how they've been admitting to it for years. So here's another great example. Here's a news story dated January 24th, 2017, that says China gets the go-ahead to start modifying the weather as if they haven't already been doing it for years and as if you and me and many other people didn't already know that. I mean, this is how little respect and how fucking retarded they think everybody is. They just report on something like it's new. It doesn't matter to them that we have the articles that show they've been doing this for years and have the proof. Doesn't even factor into their day. They don't even care. But again, if it's another way they can, get the fear-mongering, the scaring up of the Chinese threat, boy, they're going to do it. That's how they're going to do it. Unbelievable. All right, well, we're going to leave it there for tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, folks, we're running out of time to get our operating costs covered, and we haven't had a lot come in this month, so we got to have your help. Go to theglobalreality.com right now, make your contribution, and help us get that 100% funded no later than Tuesday at noon. We'll be back here with you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. Theglobalreality.com. We'll see you next time. Take care.